things that I want to talk about is the difference between the two stitches. So this is the straight stitch, and you can see the sock is this size. This is the double stitch, and it's 1.5 times larger than this. Now, this is great for your everyday socks, or good boot sock here. This would be considered a wonderful house sock that you would wear around the house. It's great with a big pair of boots as well. So what we're going to do today is we're going to make a sock that is with just the straight stitch, so it's a basic sock. And our instructions are going to tell us to make, to create 8 rows of just the knit stitch. So just as a refresher, what we're going to do is be bringing this yarn to the front, popping the stitch over and off. And you're going to be doing 8 rows of this. This is again a situation where the row that you did previous, if it's not too tight, then it's very easy to lift these stitches up, over, and off. If it's tight, you're going to be struggling a little bit to get this down and up and over and off. So we want it to be a flow, a rhythm to it. After the 8 rows are done, we're going to do the ribbing. And a rib stitch is done with 1 knit and 1 purl. So the next stitch that you're going to be learning is the purl stitch. So as soon as we get this knit row put on, we're going to do a purl stitch. Okay, we're back to 12. We're going to start with peg number 1. The ribbing is a knit 1, purl 1 rib. A lot of times you'll look at your socks and you'll see a knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2. But for our design, we're doing knit 1, purl 1 for our rib. So the knit 1 comes up, over, and off, just like we did for 8 rows. But the next stitch is going to be a purl. And what you're going to do, the purl stitch is actually the reverse of the knit. So we're going to take the yarn and we're going to put it below. We're going to take our peg, go down inside our pick, lift that stitch up, and when we take it over, we're taking the bottom stitch over and we're putting the loop that we just made back on. Knit and purl. Reach under, lift off, put your loop back on the hook. See, even that second one was better. Knit 1, purl 1. Under, take it off, put the loop on, and there you go. So here we have 8 rows of just knitting, and we have 8 rows of knit and purl. Now your directions are going to tell you to make 35 rows of just knitting. So we're going to go back to doing just that knit stitch. And I want to tell you at this point, you can decide how long or short you want the body of your sock to be. So this is what 35 rows looks like. This is less than that through here. So if you want a shorter sock, you'll just do less rows. What we're going to do next is turn the heel. That means we're going to work on this shape right here. We have it very easy on this. We're not dealing with the knitting needles again, but what we're doing here is working between peg number 1 and number 12, and they're indicated on here with a small little dot here. And we're just working on this end, and also we have dots at 5 and 8. And as you work your instructions, those key places will make sense to you. So the first thing that we're going to do is work the heel by skipping peg number 1 and knitting on peg number 2. we're going to knit right around the end of this, the curve of the oval. We're going to knit to peg number 11. And you know it's 11 because there's a dot right here in front of 12, so we're going to stop at 11. Now the next thing we're going to do is counterclockwise. We're going to go around 12. We're not going to knit that, but we're going to come back from 11 to peg number 3. So what's happening here is we're reducing our stitching by 1 stitch on each end of the pegs. We're going to go clockwise around 2. We're not going to knit 2, but we're going to knit this time 3, and you guessed it, 3 to 10. And you'll be doing this, following your directions, until you come to 8 and 5. So when you're working 8 and 5 here, then you'll be stopping, and we're going to do, I'll show you in a few minutes how to do the next step after 8 and 5. We've just finished knitting peg number 5, so we just knit 8 through 5. The next thing we're going to do is, now those were decreases, now we're going to increase. The way we're going to increase is we're going to wind our yarn counterclockwise around peg number 4 and pick up the 2 stitches that are on there, lift them up, over, and off, and then we're going to wind around counterclockwise, lift this and knit 1 stitch, and then we're going to knit 4 more stitches to peg number 8. When we come to peg number 9, we have the 2 stitches here. We're going to wrap clockwise, pick up the 2 stitches, lift it up and off, then we're going to come counterclockwise, and knit 1 stitch, and then knit our way to peg number 3. So where we were decreasing in the beginning, we're increasing this time. So I'm working away, did that last was around number 4, so now we're going to go around number 3. Wind your yarn around, lift the 2 stitches off, bring your yarn back the other way, take 1 stitch off, and stitch back until we come to peg number 10. And you'll be doing this the rest of the way until we get back to pegs 12 and 1. Now we're back to the beginning here. We're going to knit all the way around here till we come to peg number 12. Here we are at number 12. Come back the other way. Make your single knit stitch. And knit all the way back until number 1. Here we are, finally back to peg 1. our heel has been turned. The next step that your instructions are going to tell you to do is now knit 10 rows. So you'll be knitting 10 rows all the way around, so that it's just back to the same knitting. This is what it looks like when you get those 10 rows knit. And by the way, these come off, so you just pinch that and now you can take the legs off. And this is our beautiful turned heel. We have this done this way so that you can, if you lift this up, you'll see the bend right here. And what we need to do is measure the length between the bend and the end of the heel. Now, to figure this out, what you're going to have to do is have your, whoever you're making this sock for, stand on the floor and measure from heel to toe for their specific measurement. Let's say it's 10 inches. Once you have that number, you're going to take and measure this part right here to see what this measurement is. And when I measure from the bend to the end, I get 1 1/4 inches. That 1 1/4 inches I'm going to remember is going to be the same as when I do the toe. So we're going to take 1 1/4 inches times 2, which makes 2.5, and subtract that from our 10 inches, which is going to leave 7.5 inches. So we're going to round that up to 8. The next thing you want to know is how many rows equal 3 inches. So what you'll do on the part that you've already knit ahead of time is take your tape measure and pull out 3 inches and then count the rows. 1, 2, 3, and so on. For me, there's 10 rows per 3 inches. So now that I know that I have 8 inches left to go, 8 times 3 is 24. So total 24 rows. But remember, we've already knit 10. So we're right about here. So we're going to subtract the 10 from 24, which means we have 14 more rows to go before we do the toe. After we've knit our rows, the last 14 rows, our next challenge is to do the toe. The toe is done exactly the same way as the heel. So we're not going to go over that again. If you need to have instruction on that, go back to the toe part. So you can see right here I've turned the toe, and now I am ready to take the sock off and sew it together. Our heel has just been turned, and we are ready to take this off the loom. Most people, when they come to this part, go, oh, I don't know what to do, and this makes me nervous. Well, I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. The thread that you have, and you're probably down to a little bit from your ball of yarn, you're going to measure that to about 26 inches and give that a cut. We're just going to leave that aside. The next thing we want to do is get the stitches off without losing all of our stitches. So we have to put what's called a provisional yarn in, and that is usually done of a different color. So we've got a black yarn here, and we're threading our darning needle. And this needs to be about, oh, I would say 28 inches. So I'm going to just measure it here. And there's 28 approximately. And this is our provisional yarn. Now you remember we have these, excuse me, we have the pegs from 1 to 24. But what we're going to do is pick up 1 through 12 in a certain direction. So we're going to go from the bottom to the top, put this needle through there, and take the stitch off. Bottom to top, and take the stitch off. So as we're going around and doing this, every peg, every stitch from peg 1 to 12 is taken off by putting the needle from the bottom to the top. Now, for for the other side from 13 to 24, we're going to take our needle and we're going to go down from the top and take those stitches off. And there's our last one. And woohoo! The sock is off. Now as we do this, you can see that we're going to be matching up at the halfway point all of our stitches. So stitches 1 through 12 are on the bottom, and stitches 12 through 13 through 24 are on the top. So what we can do at this point is unthread, but don't take the provisional yarn out, but thread up the tail that you left from your sock yarn. And this next stitch that we're going to do is called grafting, and that will be shown on your instructions. You're going to take your needle and come in from right to left on the front stitch, or stitch number 1, and stitch number 13, you're going to take your needle and go left to right. And we'll be doing this all the way around, all the way along, matching up our stitches. There is your toe put together. We want to take out the provisional yarn, so we're just going to hold our hand here and pull it out. There you go. Sock is together. And then we're going to send the tail into the inside of the sock. And that'll go inside, and then you'll weave the ends inside. Finish it off that way.